When I was a senior in high school, I had already taken all of the history courses that my high school offered. And so I actually approached one of my teachers to see if he'd be willing to do a independent study with me. And he agreed. What we decided was there was some history essay writing contest, and at this point I don't remember what it was for, that I would write an essay to submit to that contest. And so that's what I would be doing for the year. And I wrote upon the French Revolution. And I remember when I wrote the essay and I got it, what I thought was pretty done, I decided to have my dad look at it before I presented it to the teacher to see what he had to think about it. Now, you have to understand my dad, he was never one to pull punches. He was not concerned about making you feel good. He was always pretty direct and forthright about what he thought. And so when I got my essay back from him, literally there was more red on the paper than black ink. And the content, he said, was fine. His biggest issue was, one, my English grammar, which he thought was atrocious. Secondly, it wasn't that the content was wrong, it was how I was presenting it. It lacked depth. It lacked a sense of really presenting an understanding of what was happening as opposed to just putting dates and figures there. And I really needed to work on it. I remember when I first got it, I was kind of crushed. It was like, I thought I had done a really good job. And my father made it very clear to me that I didn't. But what I came to realize quickly after that, and it's a lesson that I've kept with me, is my dad told me what I needed to hear, not what I wanted to hear. The problem is we really are in a society today that is really sort of centered on telling people what they want to hear. It's about making the individual feel good about themselves and the choices they're making. It's about really upholding that personal sense of value that should trump everything else. And we either support that or there's something wrong with us. We're the bad person because we're not upholding their sense of identity, values, whatever it might be. Because, well, we're supposed to tell people what they want to hear. And for a lot of people, that's the problem with the Catholic Church. They'll look at the teachings of the church and they'll find them offensive because the teachings of the church don't agree with them. And of course, there's no way they can be wrong because, again, we live in a society that believes in the autonomy of the person, and in that the person's sense of self-identity can't be wrong because truth is subjective. And the lesson I learned from my dad was, no, what I had done was bad. It needed to be fixed. Not just the truly objective reality of the grammar being poor, but also how I was presenting things, which is somewhat subjective, but the way my dad helped me to see it was, no, there are objective rules for how you present things so that it's not just about facts and figures. It's about the story and the story being told well. And I had not told the story well. The church, for many people, needs to update, needs to modernize, needs to come up to the times. But the reality is the church has been teaching the same things for 2,000 years, and has heard that same mantra from people for 2,000 years. Teaching on abortion. This is nothing new. People have had issues with the teaching of abortion from the church almost from the beginning. Otherwise, the church wouldn't have had a rule on abortion from the beginning. The church's rules have come out not because people agreed with what the church was doing, but because they were living lives that were contrary to the teachings of Christ. And the church had to show what the truth is and how to live out that truth. That's really what the rules of the church are about. They're not punitive. They're not to make people feel bad about themselves. It's to help us to understand how do we come to believe, what is our faith supposed to be, and how do we live that faith out? And recognizing that it is not a subjective reality. It is objective and real. My dad taught me that lesson. It was hard. I wanted my dad to like what I wrote, and he didn't. And ultimately it was okay. He helped me to get better. He helped me to learn, and he helped me to see what I was doing wrong. And that helped me become a better person. It helped me to grow in my understanding of things, both in the things I was presenting, but just in life in general. It's a hard lesson when we have to be told we're wrong. It's a hard lesson to have to hear that we need to change things. But ultimately, that's what our faith is about. It's about not being the person we want to be. It's about discovering the person God created us to be. And sometimes for that to happen, people have to tell us we're not doing the right thing. We're not living life in the right way. It may not be something we want to hear, but generally it is something we need to hear. God bless.